Hi, and welcome to another Action Coaching Club live, coaching slash training call. You notice I didn't put anything there as to whether it was a live training or coaching, because we're going to do a little bit of both today, June the 20th. So welcome to the call. Nice to have you here, and nice to be here with you. So I thought what I would do tonight is just do a quick redo of the Videostats player demo. I'm not going to walk through the whole thing. I'm just going to show you sort of where we got hung up, where the video got hung up, and jammed up my machine and everything else. So I think I've got that all sorted out. So I'd like to show you how easy it was supposed to be when we first did it, and I figured something about doing it live with you here on the phone seemed to just have better energy for me. I also thought what I'd do is take the opportunity to show you how to do it using iframes. Which we were talking about last time, as a way to demonstrate what the iframes are for those of you who don't know it. I'm also going to talk really briefly about a productivity tool that I call Timeboxing, and you may have heard of this. And it's, I think sometimes what I like to do when I come here and talk with you guys is bring some of the questions that I'm getting during the week from clients and things like that, because I find that if I get a lot of the same kind of questions from my clients, and usually it turns out that that's like sort of on a lot of people's minds. So I kind of use that as a guide to some of the things that we can talk about. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Timeboxing, about what it is and how I use it, and I'm going to encourage you to use it. And I'll also show you a tool that I just rediscovered. I used to use this a lot when it was available on the PC, but it didn't use it again since quite some time. And now I found out that there's the Mac version available, so I downloaded it, started playing with it again on the weekend, and I remembered how helpful it was, and I want to share that with you. And then finally we will end the call with some round robin Q&A coaching. Now there are no hot seats, this is just Q&A, so I'm going to go through the mailbag and take your questions here and give you a little bit of feedback on your stuff, but it won't be the detailed 15-20 minute conversations this time round, unless we have time and somebody on the call wants to actually do a hot seat. So what I'm going to do today, let's start with this redo of the in-play demo. So if you'll remember, in-play was the video statistics tool that I suggested that you use. I'm going to show you real quickly how to set it up with JW Player and Flow Player, which is currently the two, I would say, probably the two most popular players on the web. Although there's another one called JS, HTML5 JS, I think, that's coming up now. But anyway, then I'm going to show you, once you've got the file working, how to embed iframes and how to use iframes to embed it in your blogs and other posts. Then I'm going to show you a couple of really cool WordPress plugins that I use from time to time, and it really helps because of the way WordPress, the WordPress editor works. And you'll see what I mean a little bit more as we get into that. So let me switch over. And okay, so what we're looking at here is two files that I created earlier. Now, if you'll remember, if you go to TwoMogul.com and into the solutions area and then the in-play video player analytics, you're going to find that there's a tool here that they have. It's a free tool where you can actually hook up your JW or Flow player, and you can track the number of plays, the number of views, how long it played, and so on. And what I did was I went through the integration modules, and a combination of this, and then I went over to flowplayer.org and jwplayer.com, and I used the code that they recommend we use, along with the this part here underneath where it says utilize a supporting plugin. Just sort of follow the instruction for the JW Player plugin and then for the Flow Player plugin. Okay, so I'm just going to refer you, if you want to see it in more detail, you can go ahead and look those things up. We talked about them a little bit the last time, so I'm not going to go over it again. But just so that you know, this is these are the resources that I use to actually come up with the files that you're going to see tonight. And in essence, what I did in one case, longtailvideo.com has this wizard right here, and the wizard actually makes it easy for you to generate code for the JW player. So I want a single video player. My particular installation is on this domain, and what I did was change this to 409 by 600. and then pretty well left the rest the same. You update and preview the code. That's what the video player looks like. Okay, and then all I did was I highlighted this code, copied it, and then I put it into this file called inplay-jw.html. And I'm going to show you the code there in a second. And then the other thing that I did though was I went over and I went to the plugins and I chased down how to set up a plugin right here. Okay, so the JW embedder reference guide, and then I looked at plugins, because what I wanted to see was how do I put a plugin into the player code. Okay, so then I discovered that what I do is I put the word plugins, then the name of the plugin, and then the parameters for the plugin. Okay, so this is, you know, big, long, complex URL, but if you just follow what I did there, which was if you go to, let me just click you through down there again. What I did was I came to plugins, and then when I came here, I just took the first plugin here, which I happen to know Google Analytics Pro has a reference to embedding it, and then here it says it requires the JW embedder code, so I clicked on that, and because JW player embedded code is the way that I actually prefer to embed my code, and then I just scroll down to plugins. Okay, if you're interested in knowing, you don't have to know this, you can just use the files that I gave you, but if you're interested, this is what it looks like. Okay, and my particular thing that I was looking for was how do I add a plugin, because what I want to do is I want to add the TubeMogul in-play plugin. Okay, now I'll log in here real quick so that we can actually use we can use a okay, so we'll use some of these actual IDs in the demonstration to show you where they would go. Okay, and then the other thing that I did was I went to flowplayer.org and went into the demos, and then from the demos I just looked at the minimal installation. Okay, nothing fancy, just the minimal installation. And then the minimal installation, it says there's a standalone version of this code. So I went to look at the standalone version, and then essentially what I did was I viewed the page source. Okay. And essentially copied and pasted this into the file. Just highlighted the whole thing with the Control A, copied it, oops, and then went to my in-play flow here, in-play-flow.html, and just pasted it in here. And then what I did was I went back to TubeMogul because I wanted to know how to embed plugins in FlowPlayer. Okay, so went to Analytics, Integration, FlowPlayer Plugin Guide, and then just scrolled down to where the code was here, and I basically copied this. Okay, so this is where the plugins all go. Now you'll actually notice that the code that FlowPlayer gives me is a little bit different than the code that TubeMogul uses here in terms of defining the files and everything else. It's okay, I mean they both work, they're just different ways of specifying it. My main concern here was to learn how to add plugins. So those are the resources that I used. TubeMogul, you know, integration guide for FlowPlayer, TubeMogul integration guide for JW Player, and then the JW embedder documentation, and the demos, the installation demo for FlowPlayer, and then of course my favorite wizard here that creates the JW code. Okay, so I'll document those in the PDF, but Those are the only four that I used, and you only need one or two depending on which one you use for a player. So I'm going to show you both, but essentially you would only use one. Typically you would use the wizard here if you're using JW Player, copy and paste the code, and then I'm going to show you exactly what the code looks like once you add the plugin. Okay, so this is the code that I went to figure out how to embed. So in other words, JW Player gives me, by default, from the wizard, gives me this code. And then what I did was I went over to, you remember how I went up and looked up the plugin stuff here, right? And I saw this is how you added plugins. So I went back to my editor and added this code. So now what I want to do, see, this is the in-play plugin and these are the parameters. So the only one that I think in-play really requires is the player ID. But if you happen to have player ID, tracker ID, and so on, you can use that. So let's go back to my account. Where's my account here? We're going to go to my account. We're going to go into players. Okay, so the player that I want to use is JW Player. So the tracking ID, basically I copy this and I'm going to put that in my player ID. And then tracker ID, I go back into my TubeMogul account. Let me move this over a little closer and manage my trackers. And ACC, okay, I'm going to use Guru Coaching All, so that'll be this one. And I put that here. And then if I want to do, the publisher ID, I could say Action Coaching JW Player. And if I want to keep track of the specific video, now these are optional, right? So you don't have to actually put these parameters, but just allows you a detailed level of tracking. So the video here, I would say JW sample video. And the display name, which is going to show up on my tracking, I would say JW sample video test. Okay. And now what I want you to notice that I did a little bit differently this time though is that I actually created a standalone HTML file. So in other words, I took the code from JW Player, which is this code and the script code, and I put it into a standalone HTML file for a couple of reasons. So one is I wanted to show you, how to do it with a standalone HTML file, and the other one is I'm going to show you how to embed this into your blog post. So what you'll do is you'll just create a regular file in HTML, starts with HTML, and then you put the script, which is the JW Player, you put that inside the head and /head parameters, which usually, it's right up at the top of the file underneath the HTML tag. You'll usually see head, and here you'll find things like title and description and keywords and all that kind of stuff. So this is just the header part of the file. It's not, it's the sort of initialization phase, and it brings in the code that it's going to use, but it doesn't actually execute anything. Then the body, which is where the HTML code that is executed starts. Then I just pasted the JW Player code. So what does that look like? Well, let's go have a look. If I go to gurucoaching.com/videostats inplay jw.html. And by the way, you can type this. You should be able to play, and there you go. So you see the. Okay, so I've embedded that into my HTML file. I don't have anything else on the page, just that simple player, but that gives you an idea. So if you actually want to see this and want to copy it into your own HTML pages or whatever, you want to use the same code that I'm using for the player, just view the page source, right? And it's right there. You just copy this and put it into your own HTML file, and then just make sure that you change these things so that they point to your player, to your video, to your trackers, and so on. But essentially you have that all done for you. Okay. You can also, if you wanted to, just save the page as something. Okay. So that's the JW player. And the same thing basically happens with, let's go there, basically happens with the in-play for the flow player. So look at the code for this. Okay, and so if you take this out, which is the plugin code, okay, this is the code essentially that Flow Player tells me that I should use to watch a video, right? This is the video that it's going to play. Sorry, this is the Flow Player, the Flow Player, the actual player control. This is the video that it's playing. And then again, I created this kind of whole HTML file around it with the head section where I put the script for the Flow Player. Okay. And this is just how you install the Flow Player. Now again, you know, this is just something I'm borrowing from the I'm using from the TubeMogul domain, but of course you want to install this on your own domain and you want to point to your own script. Same thing here, right? You don't want to be using flowplayer.org. You're going to have it installed on your own domain, and then this will be the name of your own video or group of videos. Here, this is actually a playlist, so you can have multiple videos, but we're going to demonstrate it with one. So then what we want to do here to the standard kind of thing is we want to add the plugin for the in-play to monitor the number of plays it gets. Okay, so there it is again, and like I said, don't worry too much about what it all means. Just copy and paste it. It's the easiest way. And then what we're going to want to do, let's go ahead and pick up those. Okay, so this is the tracking ID. Whoops. And we're going to put that here. And get the players. And so now this is the flow player. So we're going to use the different tracking ID. And we're going to identify this player there. And then we're going to say publisher ID. So that's going to be ACC, let's just call it Action Coaching Club. And this will be the sample flow player video. And this will be sample flow player video test. Okay, these are up to you. You can make up these names. Something that's going to, so that when they show up in the TubeMogul in-play stats, you're going to be able to recognize what they are. Okay, so again, these last things I think that, in fact, that they're all optional. But I like to add them anyway. It's just better tracking. Now, if you're going to save this this doc type HTML, you probably want to get a real HTML editor. There's a longer string of standards and so on. If you have an HTML editor, just open it up and by default it'll have these tags for you. But the thing that you really care about is that you open with the HTML tag, you have the head and end head section, and then you have the body and end body section, and then within the body you put your player code. Okay, so if we change, and again, you can just go to the site, play this, download it, copy it, whatever you want. Just make sure that you go through and you change all of the files so that they point to your domains and to your files. So let's save that. And then if we go to Guru Coaching, I think this should say Flow. Okay, there's the Flow player, right?
TubeMogul, easily distribute your videos with one upload to the top video and social networking sites.
Okay, so that's now what we've done. Now, as you go and watch these two videos, gurucoaching.com Videostats in-play-flow.html and in-play-jw.html, over time, I'm going to be able to go back into my TubeMogul stats area for my account, and I'm actually going to be able to look at the stats in play, right? And so what I'm going to be able to see is how many views you had, where you're located, whether you embedded this into your website or not, how engaged you were in the video, how much you watched, where the traffic came. So all of these stats are available to you simply by doing what I just did. right? And so what I recommend, in fact, and we talked about this before, is that you actually create an HTML file and associate it with your video. In other words, if you have your video on a particular domain and folder, then I recommend you actually create an HTML file and put it in the same folder, the same location as your video file. And the reason for that is because then all you have to do is play that HTML file, and no matter where you are, what website, whatever, it's going to work reliably, number one. And then number two is, if you wanted to change the look and feel, like say tomorrow you wanted to use JW Player instead of Flow Player, you simply change the HTML file, and everywhere that you're playing the video automatically updates. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So we can get rid of these probably at this point. Okay, back to File Manager. So I have these two files, right? InPlay-Flow and InPlay-JW. And what I'm going to do is now head over to the blog, coaching.com/WP. Okay, and let's pretend this was your blog, and you wanted to put those two videos on your blog. Well, I happen to have a page that I set up, and I have it displayed as InPlay iframes. So we mentioned iframes before, and here's what iframes are. Iframe is this tag, this command, that basically says insert the contents of this file right here where the code is, in a window 600 pixels wide by 409 pixels high, and don't allow any scrolling, so no scroll bars on the side. In fact, I'm going to go one step further and say, and I don't even want to see a frame border. Okay, so it's not going to have any frames, not frames, borders around the edge. Frame border equals 0. Okay. Now again, you don't have to worry about what all this means. Just copy it as it is, and just change this to point to the file that you want to display, the width and the height that you want to display. Okay, so now if you remember, I'm using a plugin called Raw, and Raw basically says to the editor, I'm going to give you some HTML code, don't interpret it, just send it to the browser exactly as is. Okay, and that's just an easy way for you to add stuff like JavaScript and HTML inside a WordPress page or post. So let's do one at a time here. Okay, so we can see it better, right? So what we're looking at here is we're saying insert the contents of the file InPlay-jw.html into this. So I'm going to preview this. Okay, there I go. I've just brought my video from the location where it currently resides, and I'm putting it using the inline frame. I'm putting it inside my blog. Now let me just show you how this works if you were to change the size of the window. Okay, see? So now the window, instead of being out this far, it's a lot smaller, right? But what that means is you're not going to display the whole video. So this side of the video got cut off, right? This much of the video. So what the iframe really is it's saying, see, you can see the outline of it here. It's saying display the file on this web page inside a window right in here. Okay? And that's what we're doing. So we're actually importing it, if you will, from where it resides on my website, and we're displaying it on that location in the blog. Okay, so let's put this back up, and we'll just make this 410. And then, of course, if I want to, I can add a new line, and I can also import my flow player. Okay, so now what I'm saying is, so now actually I could do something here that says, this is the JW player, whoops, example, and I think I can put a new line here, and then I can say here, this is the flow player example, new line. Okay, and if I preview the changes, see what's happening? here's what I type. Here's my page, and then this is the iframe, and then this is my page, my text, and this is the flow player iframe. Now notice here it looks like it's cutting off the bottom just a little bit, so what I would probably do in here is put the height to 405. Okay, see, now it's displaying the whole thing fully. Okay, so that's a really easy way to bring videos into your blog, right? Now the thing is, let's say tomorrow I wanted let's say that tomorrow I wanted to replace this video player. So instead of the standard JW player, I wanted to use a flow player, or maybe I wanted to add an HD option plugin, or maybe I wanted to do put a splash page in front of it or something like that. Well, all I have to do is go to the index file and change it. The blog automatically inherits the changes. So the cool thing about that is that means that you can actually put this little snippet of code anywhere. You could put it on your fan page. You could, if there's room, if the video fits, you could put it on your Facebook fan page. You could put it on your Posterous. You could put it on your blog. You can put it on your WordPress.com blog, your main domain blog. Put it everywhere that you want. And if it ever changes in the HTML file, all of your content everywhere automatically gets updated. So maybe you edited the video, right? So you're going to edit the video, you change it, you point it to another file, the HTML file changes, but since the video and the code, the absolute location is not here, you're bringing it in from your website, makes it very easy for you to change and very easy for you to migrate to as many different properties as possible. Okay, so that's why I recommend you use that format. Now, I just want to remind you real quickly that this is a plugin called Raw HTML, and it really helps to be able to put in whenever you're putting HTML inside your WordPress editor. This will basically leave it on so that the editor doesn't mess with it. Okay, so that's one cool plugin I wanted to show you, which was the Raw HTML. The other one that I wanted to show you, which is really cool, is a thing called Shortcoder. Okay, now in Shortcoder, let me just update this, make it permanent. Shortcoder is very cool because what it allows you to do is it allows you not to have to even, so if you wanted, instead of the iframe here, if you didn't want to have to type in all the width equals, height equals, and all that kind of stuff, and in fact you could put the actual code for your player, the one that I had in the HTML file, you could put it in here, you could give it a name here like InPlayJW1, and basically what you're telling WordPress is wherever I ask you to insert InPlayJW1, insert this code. Okay, so let me show you what that means. So I'm going to, just for fun, go to a different page like my About page. Okay, and what I'm going to say is here, I'm going to use the shortcoder for the shortcode that I defined called InPlayJW01. Okay, and so what I'm saying is however I define this, whatever code I put in there, that's what I want to display here in this location. So what does this look like? Look at there. It actually embedded my file. So if you have a hard time trying to remember all the different ways, to write your iframes and all that kind of stuff, you can just make a shortcode, and what shortcoder does is allows you to just give it a name and not worry about any coding or HTML or JavaScript or anything like that. You just go ahead and input it. Now the really cool thing about it, I also have one called to, and this allows me to define the source of the video. So let me just let me see what the source actually is here, because I've forgotten. Oh, that's not what I want to see. Hold on. Okay, so let's say I want to take this video. Okay, so I'm playing this file. This is the video file that I'm playing. Okay, so what I could do with the way I defined that is I could actually say use the parameter that I give you. Right? And if I had code inside the shortcode, like if instead of the iframe to this, if I actually had this code as my shortcode, I would here, instead of putting the name of the file, I would say replace this with whatever the person specifies. So in other words, you could have this player, this tracker, inside your shortcode, and then you can specify the different parameter here. You could even make it so that you have the ability to change the height and the width simply by saying something like source equals this, and then height equals 120, width equals 50, something like that. Okay, and so what shortcode would do is it would go look at the in-play, and it would say, oh well, what in-play says is let's put all of this code into the browser, except make it a width of 50 and a height, or excuse me, make it a width of 120 and a height of 50, and use the file name that they specify. So now this becomes almost like a little piece of code, a little piece of software. You don't have to do this all the time. You don't have to key all of this type in. You don't have to remember it. If you want to change something, and let's say you use this player all through your blog, post after post, page after page, and then suddenly, Flow Player says, oh, by the way, instead of version 3.2.0, you can use 3.2.1. Well, now you don't have to go and change every single individual blog post or page. You just go into your shortcode, change this from 0 to 1, and boom, everywhere you use the shortcode, now it's going to display the new content. Okay, very cool once you start using this, how many different complex scripts and JavaScripts and PHP and everything you can use, and you never have to remember it at all. All you have to do is type it in once, and then from that point on, you just have to remember the name you gave it. Okay, so this is a very cool plugin. It's a little bit advanced, it's a little ninja, but especially if you're going to be using video code, like for example, let's do this. Okay. I hope I'm not going to blow myself up again, but let's give this a try. So let's say I did raw and raw, and let me take this out. Okay, so now I'm embedding, instead of using the iframe, I'm embedding the code directly into my page. So let's see if that'll work. Okay, so it still works, right? So that part is good. But let's say I want to embed this code in like 50 other posts on my blog. Well, I don't want to have to remember all of this every time. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this script, I'm going to take this code. Okay, let me just copy it for now. And I'm going to go to my shortcoder. And I'm going to define something, let's call it inline video player. Okay. Well, let's just call it inline video to make it easy to type. And then I'm going to take all that code and paste it in here. Okay. So this is basically telling the plugin, wherever I type in inline video, I want you to replace that tag with all of this code. Okay, so let's save it and see how it works. The preview, yeah, the preview is working, great. So now we'll go back to edit our page. Where'd it go? Page. Go to the about. Okay, and now all I have to say is shortcode name equals inline video. And we should, if everything goes well, we should see this work just the same way. And there you go. Okay, so now that's a cool thing, but now let's get even cooler. So let's update this. And let's say, go to shortcoder, and I'm going to say, well, let me get to the right thing here, inline video. Okay, and I'm going to say, oops, quiet. Oh, I see I have the demo going down here. Okay, stop that. And then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I don't want to have the name of the video be the same all the time. So I don't want it to always play this video. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the user to specify through a parameter called source. Okay, so see here, the URL was replaced with this thing that says the user will specify the file name. Okay, so I'm going to update this and now go back to the page and go to the about page. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say source equals, okay, preview those changes, and there you go. Now let me just, so what the cool thing about this is now is that you have the player code and you have the tracking code, and you all inside your shortcode. You never have to worry about retyping all of that funky, flow player, JW player code. All you have to do is give it this name and then call it up as a shortcode, specify the video that you want to play, and you're done. And you could put whatever video you want here that the flow player will recognize. And of course you could again, you could change not just the source file, but you could require the person who's typing the shortcode here, namely yourself probably, to also specify the width and the height. So maybe on some pages you have a 600 pixel wide page. Maybe on a post you have 400 pixels wide, and you want to adjust the player accordingly, so that you would go into shortcoder and you would say the height and width is not fixed. It's specified by the person who's editing the post. And so the cool thing is all of that funky JavaScript, HTML, plugin code, curly brackets, angle brackets, commas, all that stuff, you don't have to worry about it. You store it in your shortcode once, and from that point on, all you have to remember is to call up the name of the video, give it the parameters, and you're good to go. Okay? So these are two of the funkiest ninja plugins that I like to use a lot, and recommend you play around, because once you start using it, it's amazing how many different ways you're going to find to use it. Okay, now the cool thing, of course, in all of this is that every time I've been clicking and playing videos, I've been also tracking it in my TubeMogul. So I'm not going to go look now, but I'm going to say to you guys, go and play around with those two files and watch the video. Just watch as long as you want, as many times as you want, whatever else. And then I'm just going to see what happens on the stats, and I'll show them to you next week or on Thursday, how the stats show up on TubeMogul in play. Okay, so I think they're probably in real time, but we don't need to spend the time. We'll just have a quick look on Thursday to show you. If you go and watch the videos, play around, do whatever you want, watch the flow player, watch the JW player, and then I'll show you what all your activity, how it shows up on my video statistics dashboard. Okay, all right. So isn't it great when everything kind of works the way it's supposed to? Love it. It took a little extra prep and a little extra practice, that's all. Okay, excellent. Let's wind this down. Do you guys have any questions at all about this so far? Julie says, then shortcoder is like Bitly. Not exactly. Bitly technically is a link shortener. All it does is it shortens a long link, and it replaces it with a shorter one, but it redirects it to where the long link is. Whereas shortcoder actually replaces this tag with any, it could be a big long HTML file, it could be a block of text, it could be an iframe command, it could be anything, right? So it's not just link to link redirection. It's actually like executing a piece of code while WordPress is displaying the page, so that it allows you. That's actually called a macro. Rather than a redirect. And a macro means it's a piece of code that executes every time you call it, and it can be fairly complex, and it allows you to substitute these parameters in it and so on, right? So it's quite a bit more advanced than just a link shortener and redirection. All right, good, you got it, excellent. And Linnea says, very cool demo. Thanks. Good. I'm not surprised you like that, Linnea, because you and me, we like to be under the hood, don't we? This is where all the fun is. Show me what's going on underneath the hood. Let me tinker around. Okay, good. From one ninja to the next. And so let's wrap this up. I'm not seeing any other questions, so let's keep moving on. if I can find, there we go. So time boxing. Let's talk a little bit about time boxing, because this is the methodology that yeah, God, if I had to pick one thing that saves my life in productivity, in terms of productivity, this is it. And over the last couple of weeks, I found the question has come up a lot with my clients. They've been asking me the question, how do you do as much as you do? Because I got all sorts of things going on, and it looks really haphazard, but it's all getting done, right? And and they also say, like, what's the trick? Like, is there a technique that you found particularly helpful? Because I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do first, and things take forever, and I'm such a perfectionist, and all the things that we all experience, right? I think it's just kind of the human experience. So as I was talking to them, I would mention certain things. Of course, I always mention the Wake Up Productive program and clearing your mind and all those kind of things. But I said, but on a practical basis, probably the most important thing that I do is I time box. And I've had to do this out of necessity. And what time boxing is when you define a period of time to get the job done, and you start working from your highest priorities down, and then when the time is up, whatever you've got done is whatever you've got done. Right? And so let me give you a practical example of time boxing. So this presentation tonight, right? What I did was I was out doing stuff today, so I actually time boxed 4 or 5 hours with a little bit of a break, but it was 4 hours, but 5 with a little bit of a break in between. When I got home from 3 o'clock till 8 o'clock, I said, okay, I have 5 hours to get this presentation done. So what am I going to talk about? What do I need to demonstrate, and so on? And so I said, okay, I want to talk about time boxing, and I made a list of things that I needed to do. I want to talk about that video stat thing, and I made a list of things that I want to do. And I said, okay, hour one, I'm going to do all the research and all the prep, and I'm going to do all of the HTML files and make sure everything works for the video stat thing. And hour two, I'm going to pull up the application and play around with the time machine, because it's been a while since I used it. I just want to sort of get familiar with it again so that I'm not totally winging it. Hour three, take a little bit of a break, grab some dinner. Hour four, prepare the slides and run the demo. Hour five, move everything over to the webinar presentation machine, and off you go. Now, in each of those times, when I came up to the end of the hour, I stopped. And because there were a lot of other things I wanted to demonstrate to you, but there wasn't time for it. On the other hand, if I didn't get around to preparing to doing the plugins that I showed you, right? Like I kind of wanted to show you the shortcoder, but I didn't know if I was going to have time. As it turned out, everything went pretty smoothly today, so I ended up also being able to include the shortcoder in the time that I allowed. And so when it got to the slides, when I was time boxing for the slides, then I included that in the presentation. Now, if I'd have reached the end of my time box and I wouldn't have been able to get the the SC shortcoder plugin working and the demonstration going, then you guys wouldn't have seen it tonight. Right? It just would have been, I would have left it out. Now, I could time box it for next week, but the idea here is I have a hard deadline, which is 8 o'clock. You guys are on the call, and I've got 5 hours to do this. So I'm working from what is the most important things that I want to show you, and I'm blocking it down into 50 minutes to an hour, and I'm starting from the most important thing, working my way down. And whatever doesn't make the cut, doesn't make the cut, period. So could I have done a much more fancy demo? Yes, probably. Could I have, like, why didn't I walk you through all of the details of those web pages and things? Because as I was going through the research, I said we won't have time, and the time box doesn't allow me to test all those things out and make sure that when I point to them, they're going to make sense. So I left them out, right? And so all of those things are governed by the idea that when the time is up, whatever I have done is what gets into the presentation. And this is how I do I don't prepare 3 weeks in advance for the training. I have an 8-hour time block on a Monday, and in those 8 hours, I prepare the training for that night. And what I found is if I start a week or two earlier, it ends up taking me a week or two to develop the presentation. If I give myself that time box, then somehow, miraculously, I always get it done in 8 hours or less, right? And are there times when, I would have said, gee, I would have liked to have done that and added this? Sure, but there wasn't time to do it. And so it either got left out altogether or got scheduled for a future training, right? If the slides hadn't have been working, if there would have been a something messed up with the slides or something, then I would have done a teleseminar, or figured something out. But the idea is that the time is what rules you when you're doing time boxes. Okay, and in Wake Up Productive, we talked about a form of time boxes in a sense, because when you think about those 60, 60, 30 segments, those are basically time boxes. Now, the only difference is that those are sort of task driven, but that's fine. It can still work that way. Normally for a time box, you're doing it on a project basis, right? So your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, these are all time boxes. And so this is kind of the idea that when we were doing software development, I was in the telecommunications field. I was a project manager, and we used to do large, complex software, and we knew that on a given date, the sales team and the marketing team had already told the field that, let's say September 1, the product is being released. So we had to work our way backwards, and we said, okay, from before the product is released, it has to go through testing, and we'll have a month of testing. And before the testing is done, we add the new features, and so implementation takes a month, and the design takes a month before then, and the function definition takes a month before then. So what we did was we just every step was determined by what happened at the end of each phase. If we had a functional definition and it wasn't quite finished, we would say those functions don't make it. Now, mind you, if the marketing team promoted certain functionality out in the field, they became our top priorities. And so we were all hands on deck to get into the field that which was promised. Now, we had a big long list of other things we wanted to do, but until and unless those other things got done, we didn't move forward with the other things. So the same thing with design. We started doing designs, can we do it this way or that way or this way or that way? We got a week left, we make a decision. It's got to be one or the other, boom, this is the way it goes, and then we go into implementation. In implementation, testing, all of it, it's the same thing. You have to hand off to the next team, so your deadline is hard and fixed, and so you want to make sure that you have all of the priority items handled. You never get it all done, and it's never perfect, but it gets handed off and it goes out into the field as good as it can be right there. Because here's the cool thing about it: by the time it gets out in the field, you've already started the next development cycle. So you're already kind of 4 months in advance. So as soon as it gets out in the field, 1 month later, the next release comes out. So if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter, because the next release is coming out within a month. And most people are okay with that in the field. They expect that things are going to be improving. And so every month they get a new release. And from your point of view, there's this 4-month cycle, and every phase there's a deadline. And it's a little harrowing, because you can count the number of times that people go, oh, but we're so close, just one more day. And the managers say, nope, no more days. That's going in the next release. And so once you get used to it, you kind of go, oh well, okay, and you just get more productive. You get more productive, and because what this is all about is putting stuff out, right? It's to stop our perfectionist and our procrastination tendencies by making the time box the most important priority. Okay, so in your world, you can time box this in the 60-60-30, right? Like if you do Wake Up Productive, and you time box the first 60 minutes to get all your email and administration stuff handled. The next 60 minutes to write all of your content, your freeline content for the week. 30 minutes, you take a break and grab a bite to eat. On Tuesday, time block 1 is when you get your websites online. Time block 2 is when you send your email out to your JV partners, whatever it is. So every box has to do with a segment of your project that has to move forward, and every box has an outcome. And if you get that outcome done, to the extent that you do, you go with it, and to the extent that you don't, you let it go. Now, here's the thing. If you take this seriously and you allow yourself to get burned once or twice, in other words, you let the time box slip, or you don't let the time box slip, but you let something go out that's not quite finished, and then your partners rag on you, or your customers rag on you, or so, you know what? The next time, it's not going to happen again. The next time, you're going to make sure that what has to get done gets done. It's an amazing tool for holding you accountable to deliver on things that you promise, and to only promise the things that you want to deliver. So when you commit to the time boxing constraint, that is, that the deadline that you set for yourself is absolutely sacred, what you'll find is you start getting more done faster. you realize you start releasing that need to be perfect, right? So all of a sudden now, instead of being perfect, good enough is what you're aiming for, and good enough usually is great. And of course, you always know that if it's not good enough, you have another iteration to go through later, but only if your market tells you it's not good enough, or your JV partners tells you it's not good enough. Because if you leave it to you, if we leave it to ourselves, our mind will never think that it's good enough. There's always a way to improve it, and the fear of putting it out in the world and maybe getting rejected, or maybe not making it, maybe it doesn't sell, or maybe people don't opt in or whatever. It's a great excuse to say, but it's not quite ready yet. It's not quite ready yet. So if you set yourself, for example, the end of the week to have an opt-in page online, no matter what, guess what? You'll get better and better and better getting that opt-in page online when you say you will. So you'll find yourself releasing perfectionism. You have to end procrastination, because you know that if you don't make it in that time, you basically got other stuff to do, and you've just missed that opportunity, right? So by the way, this also means that if you give yourself enough time boxes with enough important things to do, then you know that if you don't finish it now, you don't have time to do it again later. You don't have an infinite amount of time. If you don't do it now, it may be another month, given all the other time boxes that you have going on before you finish this, right? So you'll find yourself ending procrastination, getting it done faster, and in those 50 or 60 minutes of a time box, or however long you make it, but usually 50 or 60, you will find yourself focusing like nobody's business, right? Because you've got 50 minutes to get that stuff done, and it's getting done, because you committed to yourself that if it doesn't, you're going to suffer the consequences. So you'll focus better, you'll work faster, and you'll end indecision, right? Because that's another thing that holds us back sometimes. Well, should it be a gray button or a green button? Should it be a 5-point or 7-point font or whatever? I don't have time. 7 point, 5 points good enough. Let's just put out there, see what happens. And so what's the value of this? The value of this is you're going to be putting stuff out there. You're going to be delivering. And you want to get in the habit of delivering out to the marketplace. Not everything you deliver is going to be, received like it was the grapes of wrath. Not everything is going to win awards, but it will always move you closer to knowing more about what your market wants and doesn't want, and what you need to have in there and what you don't need to have. So if you put something out there and it's missing something, there's a big gaping hole that you get a lot of feedback about, then you know that the next time you do that time box, that's going to be a priority. And so it's a great way to filter and to work on priorities that clients have of you, not that you impose on yourself. And knowing that attaches enough meaning to the activity that it actually inspires and motivates you. Okay, so lots of really great reasons to try this on, and I would highly encourage you to do it. Now, when the end of the time box arrives and you don't have everything done, you have a few choices. So the recommended thing to do is just drop what's not done and release the project. The second alternative that's recommended is learn to simplify or reduce your outcomes. So only promise the things that you know you're going to deliver, and as you get better at delivering, you can promise more. But then you're never going to have this feeling of, oh my God, I can't just let it go like this, right? So ideally, you're going to take the time seriously. Now, sometimes you have to be able to, fudge a little bit. So what's possible in that case, not as highly recommended, but what's possible is you can move the deadline, right? So you can create essentially a new time box, right? So you can say, well, I know I only gave myself an hour, but I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to extend the deadline to 2 hours. It's okay, right? But not ideal, because what you're doing is you're encouraging procrastination and perfectionism. So ideally, what you're going to do is say, not done, not going to get done. And then, of course, you can create more time boxes. So if it's really impossible to simplify or reduce the project, and you just got to get it done, you just look in your schedule and you allocate more time boxes for that project. And this time you get a little bit more specific about what the outcome of each time box has to be, and you add 3 or 4 time boxes, and now that the research has to be in this time box, the draft has to be completed in this time box, and the final version has to be done in this time box. Okay. So this is all well and good, and the question then is, how do I actually do it? Well, a lot of people use kitchen timers. I've been using my iPhone timer for the longest time, and it's really great. If you want something a little bit more funky and cool and modern, you can have a look at this link, which is the Action Machine, gurucoaching.com/action machine. Now, the friend of mine called Derek Franklin, actually, he's done a lot of really cool things, but this is one of the coolest that he's done. And I'm going to show you basically how it works. Now, I'm on a Mac, but I'm pretty sure the interface on a PC is pretty much the same. So here's the action machine. Okay, and let's load up a custom list here. So here's how the action machine works. Let's say that you said this is, let's say in my case, right, I'm going to say ACC training. Okay, and I'm going to say, first thing I want to do is the research. Okay, do the research. Let's call it do the research on the subject. Next thing I'm going to do is preliminary outline. Then I'm going to walk through examples, demos. And then I'm going to prepare the slides, and then I'm going to prep webinar context. And what that means is, fire up my machines, reboot where I have to, shut down all my fans and any noise, and make sure both screens are fired up, make sure the screen recorder is set up properly and all that stuff. So prepare the webinar context. So I'm just going. I don't know why I called it that, but there it is. So let's say now it's Monday, and I'm going to say, all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the research, and I'm going to need about 30 minutes to do the research. So that's my time box. And then when I've done that, I'm going to create the preliminary timeline, and it's probably I can do that. I'm going to give myself a little break. I'll do that in 30 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the slides. And preparing the slides is going to take a little longer. Let's give myself 45 minutes for that. And I'm going to do all the demos and walk through them. That's going to take a little bit more time. So I'm going to give myself 90 minutes for that. And then about an hour before, or 45 minutes before we start a call, I'm going to prepare the webinar. Okay, so there are my time boxes. Now, so all I have to do essentially is, do the research. Now, let's say, for example, in do the research, I decided that, I had some things that I wanted to do specifically. So I might say, I'm trying to edit this and won't edit. Let me edit. Okay, so I might say, look up the long tail video site, look up the flow player site, look up Tube Mogul, right? So whatever it might happen to be, and these are just my notes. And so as I'm going around and here, I say do the research. Is that where I put them? I put them in the wrong place. Hold on. Oh, come on. There it is. Here's what I want to do. Okay. All right. So now, when I look at do the research, where did I put them in preliminary outline? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so what these things, if I remember correctly, these are HTML. Okay, look up the Flow Player site and look up Tube Mogul. All right. So here you go. So when I could compile these notes over time, and the more I do this time box, the more I do this research, the more I can add to the notes. What does that mean? Well, eventually this becomes my checklist, doesn't it? This tells me exactly what I need to do, and then if I find that I can't do it in 30 minutes, I may decide, well, this time box should be 45 minutes, right? Or, next time I'll make it 60 minutes, or maybe I need to simplify how I do things or whatever, right? So you have the opportunity when you're doing a time box over and over again to create a checklist that helps you map through. This is how you'll get to know better and better how long everything takes, and you'll start doing things systematically. So now what you can do if you want is you can link these timers, which means that as soon as one finishes, the next one starts, and the next one starts. It'll give you a little ding dong. And then you say, okay, I'm done, and you close down your time box and you move to the preliminary outline. And after 30 minutes, it'll say ding dong, and you're done, and it'll start this timer automatically, and you start preparing the slides. So in this case, actually, let me just move this, because what I want to do is walk through the demos first and then prepare the slides. Okay, so I just swap these timers. And so this will just go through, and this is a total of, where's my time, 4 hours. See, now I know that this is going to take me 4 hours. And when can I expect to be finished? Well, right now I can expect to be finished about 1:05 a.m. Okay, so this is a great way to plan your activity for, preparing the ACC training, for example. And you just kind of click away there, and I don't really want the timer ticking, so I'm going to say none, right? And you can just minimize this, because it'll wake you up with a little ding dong when you're 5 minutes from the end, and then you start to wrap up, and it'll start this timer. Now if you finish early, you just say done, right? And the other timer starts going. See? Now let's say you're in the middle of this and you go, I've been at this for 2 hours, I'm going to take a little break. No problem, just come up here and say I'm going to take a 15-minute break. Click that, and see, now this is paused, and now your break time starts. You got 15 minutes left in your break. From 15 minutes from now, it'll ding you and you come back here. Or if you finish your break in 5 minutes and you're done, you just basically say no problem, I'm ready to start working again. Okay, and there you go. You reset the timer, your clock is going, and you keep working, right? So most of the time this sits in your tray. You don't have to have it on screen, but you can. And the cool thing about this is it helps you with the time box. It also helps you to automate processes, and these become like your little checklists. And if you want to, you can you don't have to allocate the timer. You can just outsource it. And then finally, what it does is, every time you do it, you get more and more detailed about your checklist of what to do. So think about if you were to actually hire a virtual assistant and give them this list of things to do with the time boxes, and say, I expect you to do the training, and by the way, eventually I think you're going to be able to do the whole thing start to finish in 4 hours based on this process, this system, and so on. So not only do you get to time box yourself, but you get to control your VAs. Now, I haven't done that yet, but it's a great idea, right? And yeah, so there's other things you could do here, like you could generate reports that show you, how you've been using the time and where the time is going, if you're into that kind of stuff. You can put a little loop here. So for example, if you wanted to have one big 4-hour block and you wanted to be notified every 30 minutes, you could do that. If you want to be notified anywhere between 5 minutes to an hour before the end of the event, like here, 5 minutes before this timer expires, you're going to hear a notification that gives you time to wind up. So it's a pretty cool, sophisticated, advanced way to do everything, and allows you to get faster and faster and better, because you're saving all of these things in your custom lists. And you can, I don't know how many custom lists, there's 50 of them here anyway, right? So you could do that. You could do this for running errands. You could do it for cooking dinner. You could do it for whatever else. Make a list of your most important activities, and every time you want to run it, you just go. Now, in the default, they have a whole bunch of things like follow up with clients and customers, invoice and billing, clean and organize the house, all that kind of stuff. But here, you could put as the events that are most important to you. You could say, write your blog posts, or even more generally, write your freelance content. But it's better if you say, write my social media blog content, my social media content for the week, and you allocate, 45 minutes. And then another time you say, write the next module of the workshop, and you allocate an hour. And write the do the PowerPoint slides for module 3, and you allocate the next hour. And so you could do this and just make them if you make them more general instead of attaching them to a specific project, then your day can be activity based. So you can say on Mondays, which by the way, there's a thing here, timers for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. But you can say on Mondays, what I want is the first hour I want to be doing my social media posts, the second hour I want to be working on my marketing, and then I take a half-hour break. And the next hour I contact all my JV partners, the next hour, whatever else. And so you could automate that so your entire week gets nice and structured. Now, you don't want to be a slave to this to the point, where you schedule taking a drink, but for the important things that you want to make sure get done and the things you've committed to, this is an ideal way to do it. And this is a great implementation tool for time boxing. Okay, so recommend you give it a try. I'm not sure if they have any kind of demo or trial version, but I think it's a ClickMank product, so you'll have 60 days to play with it, and if you decide that it's not for you, you can just return it. But I've found it incredibly useful, and the cool thing about this is I don't have to have an external device, right? I don't have to remember to carry my iPhone with me at the time. I don't have to carry a kitchen timer or whatever else. It's on my computer all the time. So anytime I need to get time boxed, I just fire up the application, I time box, and I get busy. Another great application of this is what we call productivity days. Now, we usually do this in a group, and let's say you take Saturday morning, right? And you have 6 people. And so what you do is you time box every 50 minutes, and then you do a 10-minute break slash, you could do it every 60 minutes or every 50 minutes. But so let's say at the top of the hour, everybody gets together and says, okay, so here's my time box. Here's what I'm doing over the next hour. Everybody talks for 30 seconds or so you don't spend a lot of time, and off you go. And then everybody works frantically for that time box period, which is usually 55 minutes. Take a 5-minute break and then come back on and say, okay, so here's what happened in my last time box. Here's how I'm going to adjust. Here's what I'm doing in my next time box. And everybody in the group does that, 5 or 6 or 7 people, and then off you go for the next hour. And everybody's driven by the same timing, the time box. If you do that in a mastermind structure like that, and you do that in a mastermind structure and you use a time box like this and you get people committed, you will get more done on that Saturday than many people get done in a month. So give it a shot, try it out, and this is a tool that'll support you to do that. So let me see, 404, Christopher's getting a 404 page. Really? I was sure I tested that. Let me have a look, Christopher. You are correct, sir. What the heck is that all about? Okay, I'll fix that for you. So let's focus for now, and I'll fix that for you when we get off. So give me about 10-15 minutes once we get off the call, and it'll be working for you, okay? Sorry about that. I could have sworn I tested that. How weird. Okay, there you go. All right, so any other comments, feedback, questions about this whole time boxing thing? Anybody want to share with me what your impression of this was? Is it something you would use, or do you think it's too structured, too strict, or do you see the benefits and advantages of it? Julie says, very cool, I like it. Good. And are you going to do it, Julie? You going to try it? Come on, let me see that yes. Christopher says, I have trouble sticking to the time I have set up. Yeah, that really is a challenge, Christopher, and in the beginning you won't stick to the time because that's not your habit. But if you're gentle with yourself and you just practice, sticking to the time more and more and sticking to your priorities more and more, it will get easier. And the cool thing about it is that as you start getting more things done and you get more productive and you have more free time, it's sort of a self-acknowledging, self-rewarding system, so that you'll actually find, hey, I only worked 4 hours and I got everything done that I had to get done. I can go out and play. The other thing that you should use a time box for, you guys, is for surfing the net. How many times, and watching TV. So in other words, those activities that take you away from your productivity, that take you away from your productive time, put a time box on those too. For me right now, for example, I have a time box on how much TV I watch, and so I record everything on my PVR. And I know I've only got, for example, 90 minutes. And so what am I going to watch? I'm going to watch my favorite shows. And I'm not going to watch the whole show. For example, I like Jay Leno, but I don't like the whole Jay Leno. I like the first, 20 minutes of the, I like the monologue and then occasionally the segment that he does. And unless there's a guest that I really want to watch, that's it, I'm done. So before, I would watch the whole thing and I would watch it all with commercials, for example. and now I'm watching like 16 minutes worth of the thing, and I'm getting as much joy out of it as I would. So think about that. That's like almost 45 minutes saved every night that I watch Jay Leno, right? Significant. And so the average person, they say in the States, watches 7 hours of TV. Can you imagine? So if you could cut your time in a quarter, i.e. spend 15 minutes instead of an hour watching something, um, then 7 times 15, what is that? It's like just over an hour and a half instead of 7 hours. I mean, that's a lot of your life back. And then out the window goes the excuse, I don't have enough time to do all the stuff I have to do, right? So this is pretty cool. I think it definitely is trouble. It is challenging to stick to that deadline. But if you just kind of nudge yourself back and practice over and over again, eventually that becomes your new habit, and you will love it. So give it a try. And the main thing is that what I would say is don't criticize or don't whip yourself for not doing it right or not sticking to the time or whatever, because that's just your mind's way of sabotaging you, so that it comes it says, oh look, this thing doesn't work and I don't like doing it, so I'm just going to stop. So don't be harsh. Just kind of go, oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having trouble sticking to the time. Okay, let me try next time. I'm going to do this so that I can stick to the time a little bit better, and just kind of gently ease yourself into the new habit. Jake says, love the time box, going to suggest it to my mastermind. Awesome, Jake. And if you're in a mastermind, try to use it for one of those productivity days and see how that goes. That'll really turbocharge things for you. Julie says, I've been using a kitchen timer, so I'm going to have to try this. Great. I found that I tend to not take the breaks, and then I get tired and go into the gray zone. Awesome. So I didn't time box a break, but I think it's an excellent idea to do that. Put in your list of actions 30-minute break, and actually put it in your time box, and practice again. Just keep practicing. It's also easy, like you say, the gray zone, right? And then you're supposed to be taking a break, but I'm just going to finish this thing up, and maybe and the next thing you know, your time box bleeds into your break bleeds into your next time box, and now you're back into that kind of things will just take however long they take. So again, practice, and the things that are your priorities that you want to make sure you get done, which includes downtime breaks, food breaks, walk breaks, exercise breaks, whatever. Put them in the time box. There's another thing about the when I used to go to the gym, I could spend 3 hours in the gym. Well, with a time box, I get there and back and showered in like 75 minutes. Big difference, right? So if I don't have a time box, I don't have a sense of urgency around it, and so it works everywhere. Let me see. Joe says, when we time box MMM style, mastermind meeting, is everyone working on the same project or on their own? No, actually, everybody's working on their own. So they set the time box so that the time segments are the same, but what they do in those time segments are what's most important for them to get done. Joe says, is this a free download? No, it's not a free download, but I think it's only like $47, and it comes with a whole little system and lots of tips, and it's a pretty good product, but it's not free. No. I'm getting it definitely, says Joe. Yay, great. We're gonna be, we're all gonna be action machiners here. We're gonna have our little family of action machines. Good, excellent, good. I really enjoy your enthusiasm, guys, and thanks for the comments. And I want to really encourage you to try this on. And we talk about in Wake Up Productive, right? It's about that escape velocity, that do it for 30 days until you overcome what is your natural habit and tendency now, until you can replace it with a new one. So give yourself time and just keep doing it. And look, by the way, don't time box 8 hours to start with. Time box the Wake Up Productive 60-60-30 to start with. And if you can't do it every day, do it once a week, and then do it twice a week, and do it 3 times a week, right? So don't set yourself up to go from 0 to 90 overnight. Just kind of ease yourself into it at the level that you are following a success-only journey, and you're going to enjoy the change, and then it'll be a lot easier to maintain. Beautiful. Okay, so I will delete these questions, and we'll quit that segment, and we've got a few more minutes left for Q&A. So let's do that. First come, first served, round robin until we run out of questions or run out of time. You can ask your question by raising your hand on the Carefree Conference call control panel with a *2, or you can type it in the GoToWebinar control panel. And if you had a question last week that we didn't get to, by all means, type it in and let's see if we can get caught up tonight. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to hop into the mailbag and see if there's anything there. No questions, you guys? Interesting. Okay, let's see what's in the mailbag. So Brian, oh, okay, so that was just saying thanks for a reply that I sent to Brian by email. You're welcome, Brian. I appreciate your you're letting me know that it was helpful. Julie, this week, okay, so this is your implementation plan. So, you know what, guys, I really want to acknowledge Julie, because when we did the first strategy coaching calls, I asked folks who were doing the calls to follow up and let me, keep me posted on the progress. And Julie, week after week after week, has sent an update on the implementation and told me how things are going and what our new plan is and so on. Julie, you are like the ultimate coachable action taker. So congratulations, and I really appreciate you doing this. And it's fun to watch your journey too. So it's good on a lot of different ways, but I just particularly enjoy being able to track your journey and your successes, and and every once in a while I can then also just drop a line of feedback, some encouragement along the way too. So let me see. This week has been challenging. Not sure if you have time on Monday's call to work with me, but I'm definitely available. All right. I'm still working more offline than online. Completed over 25 half-hour phone calls, marketing interviews with baseball and basketball players. Wow, good job. I've managed to close a few of those into private one-on-one sessions, paid, so that was good. Yay! Good, excellent. And the paid sessions are with my European League basketball players who are back home for the summer. That is cool. So you're taking those free marketing slash, and what do we call them? We call them sort of avatar research calls, sort of type of thing, and you turn some into paid one-on-one sessions. Beautiful, beautiful, well done. I'd like to get at least 25 interviews with high school or college football players. Working on that one. And if anyone in our group has a high school or college football coach friend that would let me interview their team, I'd love it. Okay, so let me put that out there. So Julie is asking if you have a high school or college football coach as a friend and would let Julie interview their team. Just type something here in the control panel. I'll pass it on to Julie. And then I'll feel more confident putting together a 10 mistakes report for each sport. Oh man, you're going to do it for each sport. Nice going. Good. Okay, so I won't read all the rest of this. Let me ask you, Julie, what's, first of all, congratulations and great job. You're doing a lot of, great stuff and everything that we talked about, and you're taking action, implementing, and I love the progress that you're making. I can't wait to see those 10 mistakes reports. They're going to be awesome. And what one thing could I help you with that's most important for you tonight, Julie? Or if you want, press *2 and I'll open your line. Hey, Julie.
Hello.
Welcome to the call.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, am I on?
You are.
Oh, okay. Couldn't tell. The one thing that I actually sent in to you, there was a thing in that email about whether to reply back to the thread that I had with a soccer team. And then the other thing was I sent an email in with a video. It probably came in later than the one you're looking at. And it's a video that I completed today that I embedded it's a YouTube video. So I embedded 2 links within that video to 2 different exercises. And this was on a joint venture with Access Athletes, this group that I'm kind of joining up with. To drive more traffic to my site. And my big debate was, do I put in the video links directly back to my blog, which won't be automatic, like because it's YouTube, they won't automatically link back, or do I put my YouTube links in there and those will automatically link to my other YouTube videos? Everything's coded and has my web address on it. Like, I'm pretty careful about setting up each video that way. But I just wondered what you advise, because I want to make it consistent, and over time I'm going to every month send in a video to this group sending them to an exercise for, particular challenge or question.
Okay,
And I don't know
when
if
you
you saw it
say
in the mailbag. It would have.
when you say coding, it doesn't automatically code it, or it does automatically code it. What are you referring to?
Well, what I mean is I annotate the video and I
Okay.
put in a link to one of my previous videos. So, like, I don't know if you can pull up the email I sent. It would have come into your inbox today.
Today?
Because I sent it a few hours before.
Oh, I see. There it
And
is.
then you could just look at the video.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
It's towards the end of the video. It's a 3-minute video.
Yeah. So, by the way, guys, I also looked up timeboxing. If you want, there's a pretty good section on Wikipedia on timeboxing. If you're interested in that.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Very
there you
cool.
go. So this is the video, and
Yeah.
so let's start from the beginning here. Now, are you talking about this coding, or are you talking about this coding?
Yes. So, like, those codes, when you hit that link, it won't take you to the link. You have to, like, stop, cut, and paste,
Yeah.
put it in your browser. Okay. So that's the usual way.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I always usually do it.
So you're saying if this is pointing to another YouTube video, it'll be clickable.
Yes, and if you go further into this video, you'll see how I did that. There's a way to do it on YouTube. It's like 2 minutes in.
2 minutes
And I
in,
did a
literally?
little thing. Yeah, I didn't want to do the video right on their website because I didn't want them to own my material. I actually want it to go to my site, my video. Here it comes. Let's see it, I hope. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So if you click on that link, it'll take you straight to that video. Or it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that's another YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly.
But it has, of course, links back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd, normally for me, I don't really care if they go to another YouTube video because you've got all of your YouTube videos down here, right? And you could put them in a channel if you want them to. The purpose for these videos for me is to bring them to my website. So, they may not be able to click on it, but then you can just put it right down here. This is always going to be clickable. So whatever link you show in your because look, if they're watching it on YouTube, then they're going to be able to just go here and click to the link. This should be the same link basically as what you're doing in your video. If this is embedded on somebody else's website or playing something else, well, they're not going to be able to link on it. But then if they do click on it, you don't want them to go to your YouTube. I mean, what's the point? You want them to go to your blog or your opt-in page or something. So I think it's probably less important that link is clickable. I mean, it's cool if it is, and if there's a way you can find to make your link clickable, then I guess why does that happen? Is it just because they want, like, you can't do the same
They
kind of
won't
thing here?
allow it. Like, unless it's going directly to another YouTube video, it won't link up. I think unless you pay, there's a different way to do YouTube that I haven't done the paid YouTube version.
Yeah.
But these, like, when you're annotating, there's a way to put a link in there as long as it links to another YouTube video.
Yeah, I mean,
But I think in the future, I'll go with your suggestion and just link it back to my blog.
yeah, because the other part about
rather
this
than-
is the other part about this is that now you're linking one video to another. Now they're not standalone anymore, which means that if anything changes in one, now you've got a daisy chain of videos to edit. So I like the idea of making them just standalone. And if you need to change one, you change one. And the rest, if you want to link them, you should link them through text or links or something down here. But in your video itself, I definitely would recommend you bring them straight to, ideally an opt-in page, but at the very least your blog.
Site.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Because this was the first one, and actually I could still go in and redo the annotations and make it point to my blog. They're all on the blog. They just get posted once a week. So, okay, that's
Perfect.
cool too.
Okay, Julie, great. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
keep up the good work. And once again, high
Thank you,
five for sending in your reports. I love that you're doing that.
Oh, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
My pleasure. Okay. Okay. So DJ says, I think your link you posted doesn't seem to work. Yeah, I fixed that in the background while we're talking, DJ. So you should try it again. I think it'll work now, and that's also true for Christopher. You mentioned it wasn't working, so it should be working now. That's the time boxing link that we talked about, which was for those of you who couldn't get it working before. Let me just show it to you. There it is. Okay, so that link should work now. So Aleem says, to reflect on last week's discussion, I found a simple way to search for Facebook groups. I typed it in facebook.com/search. Great. See, there had to be an easy way, right, Aleem? Okay, let's see what that looks like. Hop over to this. I guess I have to log in. Right. Okay. Well, but this is similar to the thing that we talked about, Aleem, in the sense that this search is going to be for Facebook, right? So it's going to probably look through the titles of all the pages and things. And if you do the same search after you type in groups here, it's going to actually look inside the groups for the keywords as well. So there's two levels of searches, and last week we found they behaved a little bit differently. So notice it's the modifier on your search is type equals groups, and this would find what you're looking for only inside of groups, not on fan pages and all the other. Excuse me. It would do the search inside the groups, not on all the content on Facebook. And if you don't have this modifier, then you will be looking, the high-level search through Facebook. Okay, perfect. So, excuse me. Good job. Good follow-up on that. Did you find any groups that are going to help you get what you want to get done? Joe says, how do I reignite my motivation? Aleem says, still looking. Okay, good. Keep looking. And are you using blog search and Technorati and all those other index searches as well, Aleem? Like not just the groups, but also, like for example, there's bigboards.com, I think. Bigboards.com. Okay, this does a search through the most popular forums as well. Might be a good place for you to double check just in case. And Joe is asking a really interesting question, which is how do I reignite my motivation after the novelty of starting an online business has waned? Whoa, that's a good question, Joe. Joe, if you're online, raise your hand with a star 2, and I'll try to open your line so we can have a chat about this. Because, gosh, I don't know that there's a single answer to this. This is one of these things that I found is usually a very sort of personal thing. That what motivates you is going to be different than what motivates me, and might be different than what motivates others. And I think in the end, for me, it's always proven to be a kind of a, like, I know what people say, right? Like, find your reason for doing something and go for the why and all that stuff. But sometimes it boils down to I'm just tired. I'm in a frame of mind where I'm not really open to knowing my why, and I'm not really open to going gung ho, whatever it takes, kind of thing. So oddly enough, one thing one thing that my Zen master taught me that I take really to heart is not to resist the feeling. Because by resisting it, I give energy to it, I put focus on it, and then I actually magnify it. And you may have heard the phrase, what you resist persists. So for me, it's the answer is kind of backwards. So it's not about how do I find my motivation or reignite it. It's about allowing myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling, to feel the lack of motivation, to feel the sadness, to feel the sense of, oh God, this will never work, and to sort of get to the bottom of that. It's a little bit like sometimes we just want to be heard, and if we're not venting to other people, and all that we ever hear in our mind is, oh man, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, and I'm not motivated and all that kind of stuff, then that's the kind of thing that's echoing in our heads, and then we start to believe it, because that's the thing about that becomes our dominant thought, and then suddenly becomes our actual experience. And so for me, what I found helps is to really just embrace whatever it is I'm feeling for as long as I need to, and in fact go even more deeply into it. A little bit of that NLP thing where you make pictures of this thing being so big and so funny and so weird, so I can, when I get to the point where I'm not just feeling depressed about the fact that I'm not motivated, but then I'll make a I'll make fun in my head, like, oh, poor Lou, look, he's not motivated. Oh, poor baby, and I start making fun of the fact that, okay, so, I have every reason to be motivated. And that, that'll come with time. That's not possible right in the beginning. In the beginning, I have to feel depressed. I have to feel sad. I have to feel like I have to mourn the loss of my enthusiasm in a source, in a sense. And when I allow myself to do that, I acknowledge that it's okay to feel that way, then the energy gets taken out of it for me, and then it opens up the possibility for me to then say, oh, come on, it's not so bad, because you ever had, when you've been feeling kind of down in the dumps, and somebody comes and they're like pumped up and happy and they're trying to make you cheery and wonderful, and you just want to kill them, right? Because like you're nowhere near that level of energy. So I work myself back up gradually. The guys, Jerry and Esther Hicks, have a thing where they talk about the range of emotions and how each one is associated with a higher and higher frequency of energy. Well, it's a little bit like atoms. The electrons don't usually make a quantum leap. They'll go from one ring to the next very easily, but to go from one ring and skip the next one is the quantum leap, and it's a big amount of energy, right? So what they recommend and what I try to do is to just reach for the next best feeling that's accessible to me in that moment. So, what can I do right now to give myself relief from what I'm feeling right now? In other words, I don't want to go from, I feel terrible to, look at that, I'm a king of the world. But, maybe I move from depression to anger. Maybe I move from anger to acceptance. Maybe I move from acceptance to, to resolve, maybe from resolve to, enthusiasm. I don't know. But whatever that feeling is, I just allow myself to sort of gradually get out of it at the pace that I need to get out of it. Right? It's my pace, it's my journey, it's my experience, and I want to allow that as fully as possible. And every time I say, come on, get out of this, you got to move, it just keeps me there a little bit longer. So if it's possible for you to buy into that and give it a try, I would say that if you just acknowledge that you are having these feelings and allow yourself to feel them, it's like when people hold in their tears or their grief, it eats away at them, it becomes cancerous, right? So this is a way of letting it out. And once you get rid of that energy, you create space for the enthusiasm to return. And at that point, you can do what other folks tell you to do, like, find the reason why you're doing this, and think about who you're doing it for, and imagine yourself, like, future pace yourself into what it would be like when you get it done and all the things you're going to enjoy. And, you start doing those positive association visualization things. But my experience is I can't do that until I get out of the rut, or get out of the negative, or let's not call it negative, call it low energy. When I'm in that low energy state, there's no point in me trying to visualize and future pace myself into a positive image. I can't do it. I don't believe it, and it doesn't work. So that's the journey for me. It's first, create the space, and then start future pacing yourself into, why did you do this in the first place? Like, what is it about it that turns you on? And why are you passionate about this, and what will it mean to you if you actually get this done? What would your life be like? What would your experience of a day be like? And then literally visualize yourself walking through that day as though those things had happened already, and start to associate yourself visually, kinesthetically, and emotionally, feeling wise, and even auditorily, to that experience in the future. And that's what I do. It's a little bit, I'm not sure that it sort of works in the same way for everybody. But for most of the folks that I work with, that seems to at least give them the ability to then know what's right for them to do. Because you'll know, once you're out of that low energy and you're in a more resourceful state, you'll naturally be driven and inspired to the thing that you're drawn to. So my intuition right now is to say to you, let this happen, allow this. And then when it passes, then see what's next and take the next step. Always reach for the next higher energy level that's available to you right now, and give yourself a way to move forward into it. And eventually you'll find you'll self-inspire, you'll self-motivate, and you'll do it in a way that's authentic and real, because you didn't force yourself to get there any sooner than you had to. You just went there naturally, and your mind, your body, your spirit wants to be there, but right now it needs to be in this understanding of a different experience. So that's kind of where I'm at with Joe, and I'm not sure how it resonates with you or not, but that's kind of my intuition around it, is that you can give yourself permission now to just be where you are, and expect and anticipate and look forward to the next higher level of energy and allow that to come when it's ready. Boy, that was really woo-woo, wasn't it? I know, you probably wanted a 5-step action plan. Oh well, I'm going to go woo-woo on you once in a while. Joe says, is your Zen master Sherry Huber? Yes, that's her. That's my girl. She's my teacher. I wish I had, a lot more time with her. We sort of crossed paths over a very short period of time in San Diego, and then she went on to do great things on all other parts of the world, and I started traveling around. So I could only then learn from her through her books and her DVDs and so on. And amazing, amazing lady. If you have any possibility, and if you're inclined towards, a little bit more of a Zen view towards a New Age, she's got insights that I don't know, very few people have. And if you ever get a chance to meet with her or go to a retreat with her, do it, because I found that just standing next to her created calm and peace within me. A weird thing. I don't know how she did it. She's a powerful force, though. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Trevor says he wants a hot seat on Thursday. Trevor, we weren't planning on doing hot seats, but if we do, I'll definitely send you an email and we'll line you up for that, okay? And that's it. Nothing else in the mailbag. Fantastic. So here we are. Not too bad in terms of time boxing. Only 10 minutes past our time box of 9:30. Here I am doing the whole thing on time boxing, and then I passed our deadline by 10 minutes. See, it's a journey, right? Okay. Let me get back to my page and say we're done. So we got her done tonight. Hopefully, some of the things we covered today are going to be helpful for you. I'd encourage you to, go back and look at some of the stuff with Videostats and implement them. I strongly want to support you to, time box, whether you use the action machine or your iPhone or a kitchen timer, whatever works. Please practice that. It's an amazing tool. At least I found it to be tremendously supportive, and I'm pretty sure it will be for you as well. And it really is kind of easy to do. It's just really practicing the discipline. So you don't have to learn any new skills. You don't have to change, radically. It's just a gradual shift until you find yourself in a new pattern. So you can definitely do that. Okay. So I welcome your comments and your questions. Send them to me. And Thursday we will be doing coaching. More Q&A, no training, just Q&A. And if we have time, and maybe put it out there that if you'd like to do a strategy coaching call and you haven't yet, so let me invite new strategy coaching call hot seats. Then we can book the time at the beginning of the sessions to do that. Otherwise, we'll just do straight Q&A coaching. So with that, I want to say thank you for being here. Because you're here, it allows me to do this work, which is fun and fulfilling, and I really do sincerely appreciate you for that. So till we meet the next time, thanks, good night, namaste.